Good day everyone. Our report is all about professionals and practitioners in communication. Rules and function of communication and journalists. Fiscalizer. As fiscalizer, communication and journalists examine of government program, analyze their pros and cons, and bring this public attention. They also monitor the behavior of government officials and make sure they adhere to Republic Act 6713 or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standard of Public Official and Employees. So, ang fiscalizer kay mao na siya ang monitor sa gobyerno sa advantage o disadvantage sa kuan ng officials, tapos ihatag na nila sa kanang publiko, tapos adhere pod nilang Republic Act 6713 or the Code Conduct and Ethical Standard of Public Official Employees para kanang kung nanikas bag wala ang gobyerno ba o ng fiscalizer. Mobilizer. Communicators and journalists bring people together for action. They persuade people to attend convention, political rallies, concerts, and demonstration among others activity. So kaning mobilizer mao ni ang nagahikayat sa mga tao na mag-attend ganig mga example rallies inana para daghan sila ba. Organizer. Communicators and journalists are good at organizing event. They search for the best venue, invite speaker, plan the program, and make sure there will be an audience. So, kaning organizer, mao ni ang nag-organize sa mga event. Example, kasal, inana. Tapos, na mga tao, syempre. Opinion makers. Communicators and journalists often shape public opinions. They write columns and host public affairs programs to influence public opinion. Nowadays, another medium for shaping public opinion is social network sites such as Facebook and Twitter. So, kaning opinion makers, mo ni ang kuntahay na ay nag-suicide, na ay mag-opinion sa imuha ba na dili siya buhaton kay bawal. Tapos sa panahon karon kay makabago naman ta, so ang tao na ana sa mga Facebook nagtambay, Twitter. So karon dira na sila nagahatag og way kay mas dali ra. Gatekeepers. Communicators and journalists select, change, and or reject message from other people. They also influence the flow of information between a source and group receiver. They exist in all forms mass media. For instance, publishing houses may select only 10 out of 100 manuscript. So, ang gatekeeper gani kay kuntahay journalist ko tapos na ko i-publish. Tapos i-crop sa na nila kung pwede ba na or dili. Mao na ang kuan gatekeeper. Leaders. Communicators and journalists serve as leader in both public and private organizations. As leader, they provide the vision for government and constitution. So kaning kuan leader mao di ang provide sa ilang mga constitution or nasasakupan.
Managers. Communicator and journalists makes good manager because of their background in planning, organizing, directing, coordinating, and reporting. Some even manage business and television or radio program. Manager, ito ang tagapamahala dahil sa kanilang pinagmulan. Sila din ang nagpaplano, nag-organisa, nagde-direct, at nag-uugnay. Ang ilan sa kanila ay namamahala sa proseso sa negosyo. Tapos, propagandists, communicators and journalists lead propaganda work for candidates in both government and private sectors position. In addition, communicators and journalists are found in progressive group where the campaign for particular advocates. Propagandists, sila ang propaganda para sa mga kandidato sa parehong posisyon ng gobyerno at pribado at natatagpuan sa mga progresibong grupo kung saan nangangampanya sila sa mga particular na tagapagtaguyod. Sunod is policy advocates. Training in journalism or in broadcasting also makes communicator and journalists good policy advocates. They are usually hired by lobby groups to advocate their particular policy proposal and recommendation. Policy advocates, sila ang tagapagtaguyod ng karaniwan. Tinatanggap sila sa mga grupo upang itaguyod ang kanilang particular na panukala at rekomendasyon ng patakaran. Sunod naman is reformers. Communicators and journalists play the role of reformer or change agent in both public and private organization. Reformers is ginagampanan din nila ang tagapagbalita at mamamahayag. Ang papel ng mga reformado o mga ahente ng pagbabago sa kapwa pampubliko at pribadong samahan. Sunod naman ay advertiser. Communicators and journalists persuade people to buy and continue patronizing a certain product. They create radio, television, and online advertisement geared toward particular audience. Public relation officer, communicators, and journalists are concerned with promoting their images of any organization or company. Public relation is considered a more refined form of advertising designed to influence attitudes and beliefs. Advertiser is sila ang tagapagbalita at namamahala at hinihimok ang mga tao na bumili at magpatuloy sa pagtaguyod ng isang tiyak na produkto na nilikha nila sa TV, sa radyo at sa online. Next is research media. Media organization, universities, private corporation as researchers. In media organization, communicators and journalists conduct regular research to find out and know more about the topics in issue. They will feature or report that determine the public perception of their programs. Research media is sila ang tagapagbalita at mamamahayag ay nagsasagawa ng regular na pananaliksik upang malaman ang higit pa tungkol sa paksa at isyu na itinampok ay sinulat nila at matukoy ang pag-uunawa ng publiko sa kanilang mga propaganda. Thank you.
Hi guys, so our lesson for today is moral dilemmas in communication practice. Communicators and journalists often deal with moral conflicts or dilemmas as they perform their duties accordingly. These involve the following. So, when we say moral dilemma conflict between what is the right or wrong decision in a particular situation or action. Kung silang mga buhatunon kung maabot na siya na situation or kaya sa mga silang mga decisions kung sa tama or mali. So, conflicts of interests. In their desire to obtain information, communicators and journalists may be tempted to accept freebies including gifts and free trips. So, as a communicator and journalist, to obtain the information, para makuha nila ilang gusto na information, they have to accept, they have to be kanang i-persuade good nila ang kanang tao to accept freebies including gifts para maganahan pud ang kanang tao sa ilang kanang kuaanan nila kanang information. Example sa kanang journalist, magkuha sila kanang certain information sa isa ka tao. So bali pag human nila kanang kuha information sa isa ka tao, murag kanang, di ba, ang journalists or communicators kay ano ba sila kanang consider sila as a researcher. So part po na sa researcher ang kanang pag magkuha sila kanang certain information sa isa ka tao is kanang sa pag nila kuha is gina-persuade nila ang tao para gina-persuade nila ang katong tao na gipangayuan nila na to accept these freebies, including gifts and free trips sa bana. So next is treatment of sources. Communicators and journalists need to take note of where they get information. They need to be careful in suing questionable or problematic information. So as a communicators and journalists, they have to take note daw of where they get information. Kung makuha sila ka ng bago na information, they have to take note of those information. And they also need to be careful in suing or beg for in suing questionable or problematic information, kasi ano man good pasig makasakit tag tao pag kanang example pag magkuha tag kanang certain information sa katao niya, ang question is kanang makasakit good. So they need to be careful. Ay basig sa ilang mga question is naa dito ay kanang maka-offend sa isa ka tao, like that. So next. Bye-bye.
So in method, communicators and journalists may be tempted to conduct ambush interviews and engage in deception and other similar practices to obtain information. So it's more like a way na para mag-gain kag information. The word deception, it means that you are promoting a belief that is not even true. So you can use that to as an advantage to obtain information. So more like you are persuading someone to believe on something that is not even true in order for you to obtain information. So yan. Next. Level of publicity. Communicators and journalists need to observe limits in promoting transparency and awareness. They have to be cautious when it comes to reporting on certain matters, such as the sexual life of a politician or a public figure. So, the communicators and journalists, kailangan nila mag-observe limits when it comes to kanang promoting something, kanang kung dapat dili lang kay ka mag-expose og something na kanang confidential sa isa ka tao. So kanang when you are publicating something, dapat dili ra kayo exposed ang confidentiality. So yun.
Hello guys, our lesson for today is the Code of Ethics for Journalists. In the Philippines, communicators are governed by the codes of ethics of their respective organization, especially journalists and broadcasters. The Philippines Press Institution and the National Press Club jointly created a code of ethics for Philippines journalists. Some of the essential elements of the code are the following: thoroughness. Journalists must emphasize the necessary information in their reports and prevent twisting the facts to serve their own objectives or those of an organization. They also need to correct errors in their reporting immediately. Yan yung pagiging mga kompleto sa mga informasyon. Para daw maiwasan yung mga tagong informasyon, dapat tama at totoo yung mga detalye. Transparency and respect for confidentiality. Journalists should uphold transparency and avoid hiding information, especially when it concerns public interest. However, they should respect the confidentiality of certain information, especially if this will harm the safety of the certain individuals. Gaya na sabi ko kanina, dapat alam lahat ng impormasyon. Pero sabi dito, kailangan irespeto kung ano yung gusto na pinakukuha ng in-interview para maiwasan yung baka may magtangkang saktan yung in-interview. Like for example, 'di ba, ayaw ipakita yung muka, tapos bawal sabihin yung totoong pangalan kasi natatakot nga sila na baka may magtangka sa kanila na masama. Fairness, honesty, and originality. When gathering the presenting information, journalists need to consider all sides of an issue. They should avoid catering to their interests or those of the specific person or organization journalists accept. As journalist, ilalagay o isasali mo lang yung dapat isali. Huwag mong haluan ng interest o opinion. Then, dapat honest ka din at dapat sariling gawa mo talaga yon. Hindi yung kinuha mo lang sa gawa ng ibang tao. Decency, integrity, and dignity. Journalists must avoid offending others when reporting or gathering information. Decency, integrity, and dignity must also be reflected in the tasks that journalists accept. Ang mga journalist daw, dapat mag-avoid sila ng mga maka-offend sa iba habang nagre-report or nagkukuha ng informasyon. Yung bang hindi ka harsh magsalita para ma-offend sila, ganon, ganyan. And dapat yung tatlo, tanggap yun ng mga journalist. I mean, dapat ganon yung gawin nila para sa ikakabuti ng outcomes ng kanilang task para sa kanilang journal. Cautiousness. Journalists should be cautious with the information they release. For example, they must be careful in stating the names of women and minors involved in crimes. Ayon, dapat maingat ka sa paraan na kailangan pang i-check yung kredibilidad ng informasyon na dapat bang ilagay kung totoo ba o may basihan ba o wala. Dahil dapat maingat ka sa pag-state ng pangalan, lalo na sa mga babae o minor de edad na involved sa crime. Yun lamang po at salamat.
The Guiding Principles for Journalists. The Code of Ethics for Journalists reflects the 13 principles in the profession. So, ang Code of Ethics for Journalists daw kay nag-reflect siya sa 13 principles. McBride and Rosenstiel, 2013, discussed the guiding principles for journalists, which are meant to meld the core values of journalism with the democratic values of the digital era. So, these principles are discussed below. So, first principle is pursuing the truth. Journalists must ensure accuracy in the information they report. They should be objective and honest on the both gathering of the presenting information.
So, good evening, everyone. So, literally, it's night. So, the guiding principles for journalists. So, I am the number 2. Upholding transparency. So, upholding transparency. This one. The number 2. Journalists must inform the audience of their sources to gain their trust. They must also be transparent about their mistakes and correct them immediately. So, if you are a journalist, you should have a fact that very interesting, that the audience must inform that interesting fact, and they will have your trust. I mean, you can have their trust. So we should journalist ka, girl. So you should also be transparent. Yes, transparent means yes, kana. So about their mistakes and correct immediately. So transparent dapat mo sa inyohang mga mistake. Dapat, hala, mali day ni. Sorry everyone. Dapat i-inform day ni mo na mali ni. So, para limpyo ang imuhang trabaho. So, number 3, the guiding principles for journalists. Serving the community as their ultimate goal. So, journalists should be aware of the needs of the community and constantly collaborate with its members. Doing so can help journalists to gather and report information without harming or offending them. Journalists must also practice compassion and empathy. My God. Empathy yot. Char! Empathy. And avoid serving the interests of private corporation. Daghana yot. Char. That disempower communities. Finally, journalists should encourage the members of the community to seek and report information themselves. They should collaborate not only with journalists themselves, but with one another. So, we should be fair. For public servant man ta, if I am example lang ha, if I am a journalist, public servant man ta, so we should be fair. Sa tanan sulok sa imuhang balita. Kwaon nimo ang iyahang iyahang point of view, kwaon nimo iyahang point of view para naidungog silang duha. Dili lang ka ang isa lang imong dapigan, that's wrong. So moving on, the code of ethics for broadcasters. Okay, wait lang guys. Wait lang. Okay. Siya. So the code of ethics for broadcasters. Kapisanan ng mga broadcasters ng Pilipinas or KBP or the Association of Broadcasters of the Philippines is a non-government, non-profit organization for broadcast media practitioners in the Philippines. It aims to improve the practice of broadcasting in the Philippines and to develop broadcast media as a catalyst for social change. The KBP created a code of conduct for its members, which covers all aspects of broadcasting, including types of program and the various consideration in airing them. The following are some of the major elements of KBP's Code of Ethics. So, ang KBP guys, kay non-government ni sila, wala ni sila ilabot sa government, dili po ni sila non-profit organization. But they are serving the public with legit information para makabalo ang tanan. So, daghag ka ng mga madungga nato no sa radyo or kanang basta sa radyo, mga dungga nato na mingon sila miyembro ng kapisanan ng broadcaster ng Pilipinas. So, di ba? Like DZMM. DZMM. Search na nato yun. So, napod sila ay mga code of ethics na gina-follow. Sa Pilipinas pod, ang KBP is kanang ginapa-widen nila ang power sa broadcasting to make some social change. So, parehas anang kutahay. Lahi mo ang natanawan sa TV. Kutahay, ako daw ang nagpatay sa imo yot. Kana, kay deserve na nimo. So, ako rin nagpatay sa imo. Unya, sa KBP or sa radio, sa mga broadcasters sa radio, so, naay ka ng balita dito nga, naay nakakita na nagpakamatay siya na naalang ko. So, asay mas legit? From the TV or from the radio that you hear? So, para sa ako it's from the radio that I hear. So, mana siya guys. So, Code of Ethics number 1. Use in public affairs. It should be informative, fair, objective. The information cited in these programs needs to come from credible sources. Oh, like, my God, always na nato madunggan ng credible sources. For example, sa ato ang PR. So, daghan kay credible sources para makakita ta sa ato ang mga RRL, sa methodology na ato ang kailangan. So, dapat ingana. We should also be informative. Like, biskang gamay kaayo nga kanang information, dapat na nimo kwaon. Kay helpful na. Youth, helpful na. Biskang gamay, helpful. Char! I'm so sorry. So, moving on. Number 2. Culture and tradition. Broadcasters and the community and communicators should uphold Filipino values such as helpfulness and familiarities. Broadcast program must also demonstrate respect for traditions and customs of all individuals. So, di ba namay ka ng radio tapos TV? Pares anang DZMM, na sila radio, napod sila TV. So, some of their reporters, field reporters, kay ka ng mga di ba kuntahay, Sinulog Festival. They are wearing the costume. They are wearing some costume there in Cebu City. They have face paint para kanang naa sila kanang naay ka ng respect sa culture ba, naay ka ng love sa culture nya. Ginapakita pud nila nga na we should also follow them kay may tama, di ba? Alangan magpilion atong mali, alangan magpilion nimo siya na mali man siya. Char, yut also ko gikon, oh no girl. So minus na jud ko ani dako kayo ba. So national development and citizen welfare and involvement. So again, national development and citizen welfare and involvement. Broadcasters must make public service announcement and provide a chance for people to express their complaints about crimes or ineffective government services. Paras kang tulpuyot. Gihapok ko ganun sa kong friend. Patulpo na ako. Char! Yut bitaw, parasan ng tulpuyot. So, parasan ng tulpo. They gave chance to those people na dili mahatagan og kanang fair nga justice. But dili wala sa pag-criticize sa, but Philippine justice is injustice. Yes. Para sa ako But we do have kanang lahi-lahi nga opinion, so lahi sa pud siguro sa imo but I respect yours and you should respect mine. So dapat mag public service pud mo, public service announcement like paras gud ng mga bagyo dito sa Kamiling na ay kami na ulyusi. So dapat ingana, for example lang to. So kato express sa mga applicants na kanang dok wala ko na ay kanang sir wala ko na injectionan kay bawal daw kay kanang di daw ko kabayad. So you should kanang kanang paminawon dapat nimo ilahang side. So next, move on kay walay ka mo yut. Accuracy and kapangit na ko accuracy and reliability. Reliability. Okay, basta mo na to. Accuracy and reliability. Information given in the television programs must be thoroughly reviewed and should come from reliable sources. This does not only apply to news programs that provide legal and medical service. So, kadto, nako-mention ka ganina. So, katahay, kadong example na akong nagpatay sa imo pero nakakita na nagpakamatay lang siya. Nya, mato. So, i-review na po na kung tayo na unsay tawag ng tig-review sa news. Basta na sila editorial in chief and something na i-review na nila. Nya, ay kani usba daw ni kay ana sila. So, mubalik ka dito mubalik kang. Sir, tinuod ba na kani until the news will be legit and reliable. So, muna siya. Decorum and respect for the law. Kani. Broadcasters must behave and be dressed appropriate according to the norms observed by the people viewing the program. Broadcast programs must also be free and obscenity in language. The explicit depiction of sexual acts and encouragement of delinquent and violent behavior yut. Dasunggo na ko yut. Wa ko kasabutan ng delinquent yut. Patay na niyot. But I will try my best to explain this one. So parehas sa AMUA, sa we do have the news spectrum. And our uniform is kanang polo shirt. So, bagay kaayo. Formal. Dili hugaw tan-awon and kami pa jud tanan is parehas. Like, oh my God. Sundog-sundog ka, girl. Char! So, mana siya dapat formal. And, dapat ang inyong language is masabtan sa tanan. For example, reporting. Best example is reporting. Dapat masabtan sa tanan ang imong gipang-ingon pero wa jud mo kasabot kay balok ko. Bahala na. Char! Dili bahala na. Uy, dapat makasabot jud mo. So, dapat ingana siya. Dapat na may respect for the law. Sige, kana. Respect for the law. For example, katong law naman po itong following, kanang respecting the culture. Law man na siya. Mga na, mag-imuhang, hala kuan, ang kuan. So, ingana siya yun. Di ba, hanay, buutan, walay pagpangatik. Ana yun. Char! Walay pagpangatik, pero siya nangatik. Char! Asa naman sad kagikon, ana yun. So, qualification and competence. Last na ni siya, guys. Broadcasters are expected to possess the necessary qualification and competence to perform their duties. They must be aware of both their professional and ethical responsibilities to the public and to everyone they work with. So, dapat kanang nice ta makipagtungo sa kapwa-tao, dapat natay pagkatao, dapat natay humanity inside us as a human. Not just broadcasters or journalists. But we should have those qualifications as a human. Because the journalist is to perform their duties properly. So, dapat dili ta bastos, dapat ingana good. So, mo na siya. And if you didn't really understand my report, you can message me or clarify me something if na ako'y na mali, guys. I respect yours and please respect mine. So, if na ako'y mali, I can fix that. And we can fix it. Like, we're all in this together, yun. So, to end this session, God bless everyone and good night. Pangit kay ko.